Unbelievable loot. A $15 unknown branded rice bag is now between $35 to $50. This was one of the tweets that I saw while scrolling through Twitter today. It was from an NRI living in the United States who was referring to the state of affairs at a superstore there as a result of India's ban on the non-basmati white rice export. People have resorted to panic buying and are purchasing 10 to 15 rice bags at one time and storing them. Kiran Kumar Pola, director of the leading rice exporter Deccan Grains India, said that NRIs in America need not worry about the availability of rice as there are enough stocks in the US and it will last for 6 months. Yet, the hoarding, purchase restrictions and price gouging still continues in major American cities like Texas, Michigan and New Jersey, which have a sizable Indian diaspora. Now, to manage the situation, some stores have imposed sales limits, restricting customers to purchasing only one rice bag. Why is this happening? Let's first understand. On the 20th of July, 6 days back, the Indian government had banned the export of non-basmati white rice to boost domestic supply and keep retail prices under check during the upcoming festive season. The ban, which was introduced after heavy rains hit domestic crops and follows the failure of a 20% duty on international exports that was introduced in September last year to curb foreign demand, which had soared after extreme climate conditions hit rice production in several countries. Now, this export ban, India says, is essential to ensure sufficient availability back home and stabilize prices in the domestic market. In fact, the Food and Public Distribution Ministry has said that there would be no change in this export policy that the government has come up with. But let's also understand, why is India so crucial to the global food markets when it comes to rice? For starters, India is the world's largest rice exporter. India's move has already caused rice prices from other Asian countries to soar in the global markets. Secondly, India accounts for over 40% of the global shipments, and its major export destinations include the US, Thailand, Italy, Spain, and Sri Lanka. And that is in fact exactly why the International Monetary Fund has urged India today to lift its ban. And in fact, its chief economist, Pierre-Olivier Gunrincha, said such restrictions are likely to exacerbate volatility on food prices in the rest of the world. Now, another reason why the world is worried is because global rice supplies are already affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict and Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which led to food insecurity and a rise in food prices. We've all seen that. The International Monetary Fund, in fact, drew a parallel today between India's ban and the grain deal, saying, and I quote the chief economist here, India's restriction would have an effect similar to the suspension of the Ukraine Black Sea grain export deal, helping to drive up prices in other countries. Now, remember, India's decision has intensified fears of scarcity, price rise, and a deepened food insecurity. But these are just fears. Will it actually happen? Let's get an answer to this and understand this whole situation better and more deeply. Let me first make my panelists join this discussion. I'm joined by Mr. Vinod Anand, who's member of the Prime Minister's MSP Committee. Mr. Anand, welcome to Mirror Now. Mr. Vinod Kaul, Executive Director, All India Rice Exporters Association, also joins us. Welcome to you as well. And Dr. Deepa Sinha, Right to Food expert, also joins us tonight. Dr. Sinha, welcome to you as well. First to you, Vinod Anandji. You know, we've seen that the government has imposed this ban. We're also seeing the ripple effects, whether they are fears or their actual impact is being felt on ground. We'll come to that later. But first, help us understand the logic, the reasoning behind the move by the government.
Thank you very much that you have raised such an important issue. Just now on 21st, Sustainable Development Goals in United Nations, the 10 days long high-level political forum, high voltage drama has ended, where we have talked about the sustainable development. Is it really sustainable for us to produce that much of amount through our farmers, purchasing them on MSP and sometime below MSP because we do have structural issues, and then exporting it through the traders? With 1 kg of export of rice, we are also exporting more than 5,000 kiloliter of water. And what is the data? The data is what the NAFTA is, that whole NAFTA I've been talking about, merely 3.26% last year. If you see the April 22 to this March 23 figure, it is merely 3.26% of the total export. That is about the NAFTA. When it comes to Europe, it is merely 3.8% of the total export. So where this international lobby, I will say the cartel or the rice cartel, which was not democratic for the farmers and for the farmers producers especially. So is it sustainable for us to export that much of amount and take care of the global food security when the globe is not saying that it is sustainable on us, when the WTO is putting too much of restrictions on us? So this is first thing which we need to decide, that do we need to pay heed to our consumers in India and check our inflation, or should we think about under what rules we should export rice blindly to these countries? And even though on their terms, on their prices, which is determined by the International Grains Council, this price is not determined, the export price per metric ton per LMT is not determined by our exporters. And even among those exporters, there is no place of cooperatives and the farmers. This is one just cartel of few of the exporters, which I still need to understand, that who are the exporters who are exporting even around $111.4 billion worth rice. So this is the first question which we need to understand. We have to take care of our national interest first before thinking about the climate change. Today, where is the climate change issue? I am asking the IMF and the whole global economists why they are not talking about the sustainability. They are talking about sustainable development. Do they want us to produce rice and just export 5,000 kiloliter per kg? So this is the questions which we need to put up, and I'm throwing this question to the House, to the everyone to answer this. Is it sustainable first, climately? Is it for this value chain is democratic for farmers? We need to rethink about this before answering these questions. Shreya.
Okay. Vinod Kaul, I would like to get you in the discussion and, of course, help understand your perspective, and also let us know whether you agree with Vinod Anand's argument that we need to think of ourselves first, and the fact that we have to have sustainability in mind when we're looking at international pressure coming in to lift this ban.
Whom is this question to, please?
Yes, Vinodji, this is for you.
For me. Okay, let me explain a few details. As far as non-basmati rice is concerned, India has been exporting around 17.7 million tons for the last 2 years. India is price competitive vis-a-vis major other exporters like Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, etc. And last year, our export turnover was around 51,000 crores, and which was around $6 billion worth of export. Now, the point is, because my viewpoint will be from the trade angle, the livelihood of a large number of farmers, of course, I appreciate the point put up by Vinod Bhai. That is true, but then, of course, the livelihood of farmers depends on rice cultivation, because rice is a major staple of about half of the world's population. We are the second largest producer, number one exporter. Now, my point is that, last year, when 100% broken was banned, broken percentage constitutes around 17% of overall export from India. White rice, which has been banned last week, constitutes 36%. Parboiled is 44%. Presently, effective 21st of this month, the overall quantum of ban amounts to 53% of the total rice that we exported last year. And if we look at the total loss that the country's foreign exchange will suffer, my calculation is that it is around 13,000 crores for the current financial year, assuming that the ban is not lifted. Now, one of the issues which is pertinent in this context, we appreciate government's move. I'm not contesting government's view because government has to take care of food security, the buffer stocks, the military supplies, also security forces. They have to take everything into consideration. And they take their decisions in the best wisdom. That is perfectly fine. I'm not contesting that, and we have no right to contest that decision. But the fact is, India's foreign exchange will suffer massively. And of course, our food security, my calculations from the data that is available from government resources is that as considering the domestic consumption, buffer stocks, exports, we still have some, fair quantities surplus left.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Deepa Sinha, we have been seeing videos and visuals coming out of various countries, whether it's the United States or West Asian countries or European countries, specifically of, the Telugu, the South Indian population, going and resorting to panic buying in superstores in these countries, and especially with the Sona Mansuri category type of rice, which is a staple for them. But do you think these fears have some sort of, foundation? Do you think that these might come true, considering the fact that there is a lot of misinformation as well in public about this contributing to a lot of crisis and food shortage? Do you think these fears could come true in the near future?
Yes, let me explain it this way. Sorry, this is
Yeah,
question to
I
me.
think like the previous speakers have said also, particularly
This is for Dr. Deepa
Mr.
Sinha,
Vinod
Vinodji.
Anand,
Yeah.
we need to take a more comprehensive view of this, is what I feel. The panic buying there is clearly what you're saying. It is panic buying. It has still not affected the market. And that is something that misinformation creates. And that's something that should be resolved by those countries giving out the correct information, that there is no need to panic in that manner. But the bigger issue is precisely what is that we also need to think more long term in what would be our crop distribution. So in currently this decision has been taken to keep the prices stable within the country, and that would be our first priority for the food security of people in India, for the PDS to continue, and for rice to be available in the market at affordable rates. However, in the long term, we also need to think what is it that has brought us to this situation, that we are so dependent on only these two staples, and particularly rice, which, like Mr. Vinod Anand said, it is also not sustainable from the point of view of how much water it absorbs and the kind of water export that happens when rice is sent out. So the lesson and the questions that we should be asking from this current crisis is that when do we move from the situation of knee-jerk reactions when there is a price rise or when there is some sort of crop failure, to one where we have a comprehensive agricultural policy linked to the food and nutrition policy, so that we don't face such a situation in future, which would mean a diversification of staples. And that one can't just expect will happen by sermonizing to farmers, but we have to make it profitable for farmers to shift away from rice to other crops. And those are the policies that we need to be really discussing from the point of view of food security of Indians and climate sustainability within India. And that would be our first priority.
Yeah, Vinod Anand, please respond to that. Why do we still not have policies which benefit the farmers in terms of the variety of crops that they grow, or the kind of diversification of staple food that Dr. Sinha is talking about?
Can I answer, Shreya?
Yes, Binodji, this is for you.
Yeah, fine. See, there are 1,25,000 almost variety of rice is being produced globally. Out of that 1,25,000, India produces around, to the contribution to that gene bank is 26,000 kind of varieties. Out of that, so far, we have given minimum support price to only 2 variety of rice. That is point number one. Second thing is that if suppose I'm a farmer from say some eastern part of the country, and I produce different variety of rice, but I cannot export it because I do not know where the export market is. On the contrary, there are a cartel of not few cartel. There are 3-4 cartels globally, and one very strong cartel in the country who do not allow farmers producer organizations, that includes cooperatives, that includes the association of farmers, to export those variety of rice which is in demand, in great demand in different countries. That is, for example, to the African nations, what we export is a different one. That's an ASEAN part we are exporting is a different variety. And for the Middle East, it is a different variety. I cannot, and none of the traders, I think my friend Vinod Kaul will guide me, many of the exporters from our country cannot export directly to USA when it comes to the even basmati variety of rice. So there is a global cartel also, which is not democratic one, not in the benefit of everyone. So first, IMF, organization like IMF and United Nations should think of making this whole business sustainable. If we are exporting or trading 40% of the global rice, then we need to get a table. We need to get our agenda on the table. We should decide what should be the export price, not a cartel which is sitting in some part of the globe under the support of some financial institutions. So this is the first point which we need to think, that does our institutions, whomsoever would be XYZ, can help our farmers to export rice. So can this value chain of the exporting import or export import of rice could be democratic? This is first thing. Democratic means, is it farmer centric? That we need to first think of before taking other decisions. Now for PDS and for the critical supply, I assure you, I'm the part of the committee, we do have enough food. There is no need for that. But due to some political, elections, things, there are hoarders who are still hoarding the rice, and there are various state governments who are not taking the due decisions. So this decision has been taken to control that inflation variations and inflation challenges, which is created due to different union-state relationship. That's part one, which is our national interest. Second, in the long term, we need to think what globe should offer us. If they are tutoring us on sustainability, they should also have a right to take a decision that, dude, we are exporting a kg of rice. We are also exporting you 5,000 kiloliter of water. So from where we will make sustainable? Do you want us to fight for water? You are doing the water conference at United Nations. You are doing different kind of sustainability summit, and there you are not honoring our farmers' commitment. You are not honoring us on the climate change issues. What is our farmers' contribution is, and you are tutoring us that we should raise the ban. Definitely, we should. We were not going to pay even an iota of thinking on those kind of lobby. We should think, on the contrary, with the help of Vinod Kaul and other people, how our value chain of the rice export could be democratic, so that the benefit what it goes to XYZ should come to the farmers organizations. That should our concern.
Vinod Kaul, okay, let me take this point across to Vinod Kaul. The similar question, Vinod Kaul, how can we democratize our value chains? How can we ensure that we are not following some sort of cartel guideline, some sort of cartel-led SOP that has been followed in other countries, and make our own system to benefit our farmers as well as consumers?
Yes, I can't agree more with Vinodji, because he's very right in saying that there are, in different countries, there are cartels. They are in Malaysia, they are in Singapore, they are in Thailand, everywhere they are. But then you see, the point is, we can't control them. But in India, as far as India is concerned, the best thing that can be done, it can be through research. My personal viewpoint is that, we have thousands of varieties. Many of them are only localized in a little area and not much of production. They are not tradable varieties, only consumed by local, particularly in tribal areas. There are specific varieties. But as far as trading varieties are concerned, the best thing would be that research has to focus on not developing more and more varieties, but improving the gene structure of existing varieties so that they become less water consuming, drought resistant, and all those varieties. This can improve, and they should have better yield also. That, to my mind, will be one of the critical factors where we can improve our own value chain. And then, of course, infrastructure development at every level. Exporter level, there is world-class infrastructure, but for non-exporting mills also, there has to be a high-quality infrastructure, which is cost-intensive. Then milling yield can improve. But generation of better varieties, and then infrastructure for producing, getting better milling yield. That is important, where we farmers can benefit, because if milling yield is good, they have more revenues coming out of that.
Okay. Okay. Vinod Anand, there's also an argument against the government that this move comes amid tens of thousands of metric tons of rice being stored in the stocks of the government and stored privately. So why not release that, and why this move citing the reason of, catering to domestic supplies?
Very first thing is that we do have a right to provide food security to our countrymen. It is therefore we will maintain our account. That is a critical also, and for the PDS, whatever we have to do, that we are maintaining. As a member of this committee, I assure you that there is no challenge over that. Now, we cannot control the private holders. That's one fact. There are union-state relationships, but union government has its own challenges. It is largely controlled at the state level, where the spikes, comes on. There are internal issues, challenges. On the question which has been raised by my earlier speaker, give me a website or give me a place. Even by paying some amount, I can get the buyers list. I'm a farmers producer organization. I'm a safe cooperative, and I want to export. I want to be in the come jump into the international trade for the benefit of my members. I do not have 10 buyers. Who are the buyers in USA? I don't have buyers list for Middle East. That is, where should I export it? So this is the challenge. Certainly, there are global players, but in country also, our country is such a huge. There are domestic challenges. Say, so for example, the rice producer states are West Bengal, eastern part of the, like Assam, say Bihar, say Odisha. So these states are not able to contribute themselves in this value chain, and therefore farmers are in great loss. So we have to see the national perspective. ये पुराना old system नहीं चले. We want an innovative system where we are stepping towards Amrit Kal, and we have to think about that how this trade would benefit farmers by 2047, where we will have take a stand. We are a rising economy, but rising economy is not only for the traders. It should be also for the farmers. It should also for the farmers cooperating. So that is a challenge. And this is the issue whenever in India, any policy which suits farmers cooperative, if we didn't talk about, there is an anti-poor lobby which does this kind of games, which does this kind of, gimmicks. So there is a concern. Fine, you do not trade on two varieties or three varieties, at least 10 varieties you can trade. But give me the list. Where should I export it? I have X amount of metric ton with me to export. And I am farmers producer organization. I deserve that. I qualify that. I am capable to do that. But I have to do through XYZ exporters. So there is a concern. Give me those list. Where is the buyer's list? On what terms they buy? Farmers producer can also
Okay.
export it. Cooperatives
Okay,
can
fair
also
enough.
export it. Just a few days back, I have spoken in United Nations in high-level segment about this very issues on 20th itself. That is the 20th. I am talking about EST time in New York. They also have raised about this issue, which was well appreciated by the global community over the president of ECOSOC and everybody sitting in the house at United Nations Interest Council. So we also have to democratize this chain. I am all for that. Everyone is for that. We all are working on that thing, and we would not come under the global challenges. The global cartel cannot pressurize us. This is the
All right.
Modi's government. This is the Narendra Modi's government, and we will take this agenda further.
All right, fair enough. Dr. Sinha, Deepa Sinha, I want to talk to you about one of the most crucial members and stakeholders of this whole situation, that is our farmers. And, situations like a delay in the onset of the monsoon or devastating rainfall have forced our farmers to replant and go to other options when their crops are damaged. In your work as a right to food expert, how do you see that being worked upon? Is there any mechanism through which farmers are being helped at the ground level where they can have this kind of system where they already know such things will happen and they might as well take their precautions and necessary steps so that they can avoid the kind of damage that they see in such kind of situations?
Yeah, so while we have various schemes like the MSP or the crop insurance schemes, those do exist and there are gaps in those, and there has been a lot of research on that. I would also want to relate this back to what I was saying earlier, which is the need for a comprehensive agriculture policy, which is keeping the farmer in the center, but also nutrition, food security, and environmental sustainability. What do I mean by that? For instance, the entire conversation we have been having so far, while the issues being raised about needing greater research to include increase yields, to not yield to these global cartels and to have democratized global trade are all valid. At the same time, we are also saying that exporting rice, a crop such as rice, is not sustainable and that we need to shift, therefore, the crop diversity itself within the country. And we must see the contradiction in this. We can't keep saying that we should not be exporting rice. That is why that ban is there now. And then say that actually the problem is that we are not allowed to export rice in our own terms. So we have to think about also decentralizing the food systems. This is something that everybody is also speaking globally. So within India, what is it that we can do to improve the crop diversity? And therefore, when we are talking about MSPs, while the MSPs are announced, for instance, for a large number of millets, procurement does not really happen for millets in many parts of the country. It's very little. Pulses, in which we were self-sufficient till about 40 years back, we are now import-dependent. Oil seeds, in which we were self-sufficient, we are now import-dependent. We have to bring all this together and understand what is it that can assure farmers' income, because there are different kinds of farmers growing different crops. Not all of them benefit from the current schemes, particularly the MSP. At the same time, how can it be done in a way which is decentralized, where local communities, both farmers and consumers, often in our country, farmers are consumers themselves, have control over these food systems? We need to be talking about these larger issues and not come back again to only the issue of rice and the export of rice and how rice prices are set. The lesson I would really urge that we should learn from this is to diversify our food basket as well.
All right. Before I wrap this discussion up, let me get a quick last comments from my panelists. Vinod Kaul, starting with you, what's the way forward? How should we go with this situation forward? considering the fact that the government has said that the ban will stay for now?
Yes, that's true. One of the way as far as export is concerned is initially you talked about those high value varieties which are preferred by, if you look at Middle East, most of the population has migrated from southern India. They would like poni, they would like sona masuri and jirga samba, etc. These varieties. We have requested government to consider at least this point, that these high value varieties which cost in export more than $700 and they are not procured by government under PDS system. So they do not impinge either on the inflation scenario or on the food safety of the country. So they should allow with fix an MEP of $700 per ton for these high value non-basmati long grain varieties, so that these varieties can be exported. In the longer term, actually, if you look at USA, we export around 50,000 tons to USA, but 70% of our non-basmati goes to African countries. Food security there is a concern. I agree with the other fellow panelists. Water is a problem, but we have to also remember that 70% of Indian population is rice consuming. So food habits will not change from rice to any other food grain immediately. It will take many, many years. So we have to still depend on rice for a fairly long time, I guess.
All right. Vinod Anandji, last comments from you. Do we expect this ban to be lifted anytime soon? And what is the government mulling now in terms of our non-basmati white rice export?
Is it from me, Shreya?
Yes, Vinod. Yes, Vinodji, this is
okay.
you.
You see, from Africa, we export 35% of the total export, means of whatever the non-basmati rice we are doing. Now, from where 35% of the population in Africa is eating rice? This is a question I am raising. So we are exporting to Africa, and through Africa, there are certain different, trade agreement, and it is being traded to the different countries. So why it is rotation? Why we cannot sell all those things directly to those consumers, that is to USA? Why it is going to different countries? Number one. Second thing is that why this value chain is not democratic? Why farmers, producer organization and cooperatives cannot be the exporters, and why it is the data is not there? Why the buyer listing is not there? That has to be there. Third thing, as you asked that, do we need to lift the ban? Certainly not. We should think the sustainability norms until and unless the global community would not come on the terms with us that, okay, you are also doing the great service to the world, global food security by exporting this kind of thing. We should not even think of doing that. On the sustainability terms, you would not respect us, but you want our rice. And on the terms, on the price, what you want. So this should not be happen. It is not going to happen.
Okay, so keeping national interests over and above international commitments for the time being at least. I'm going to wrap this discussion up right now. Vinod Anand, Vinod Kaul and Dr. Deepa Sinha, thank you very much for joining us tonight and sharing your perspective on the ban that India has put on the non-basmati white rice export. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And now on Beyond the Headline, let's get you other stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated